Well, thank you so much for staying with me, and thanks again to our sponsors. Again, we would like to mention the Kinko gloves. We have some great gloves that's coming into the store for the Christmas shopping season, also for next year. Kids gloves. Kinko's also has this wonderful rose glove when you're doing a lot of rose trimming or any type of trimming to shrubbery, trees like your citrus trees that have those thorns. These rose gloves are ideal to protect not only your hand, but your lower arm from your elbow down with that heavy canvas and then the leather part of the hand part. Just wonderful. Those Kinko gloves are great, and they are the cutest kids gloves you have ever seen. So you really need to stop out and take a look at those Kinko gloves. The next question that we had that we want to answer before we get into some of the things that we need to be doing in our gardens right now is wilt stop. And wilt stop is a bonide product that is used for many different purposes. But in the fall, a lot of people use wilt stop for their leafed evergreens that have had issues in the past with handling our winters. For example, rhododendrons, azaleas, hollies, boxwoods that have had an issue in the past, really struggling through a cold winter. If you have planted a new plant this year and you're not sure how it will handle the winter, if it is in a spot where it gets a lot of northwest winds, you have an open field beside you, or you're like in a wind tunnel, any of these leafed evergreens, if they are getting a lot of the cold winter wind, a lot of times, not only their first year, but sometimes throughout the season, if we have really cold winds, they will struggle and it will be stressful for them. The Wilt Stop product locks in moisture, and that wind cannot dry them out so much. So it is a great product for that. So this time of year, go out, spray the rhododendrons, the azaleas, the hollies, the boxwoods. Boxwoods are really known for this. I had friends that lived on a golf course, and we had boxwoods planted around their pond, but the whole one that they were up against, that wind just billowed off of there. And every year it seemed like they would lose one boxwood until they started using the Wilt Stop, and then they were saved. So the Wilt Stop is a wonderful product. If you have questions about it, please stop in at the store and we can get you the details on it. It also is great if you cut greens to bring into your home to decorate for the holiday. I always tell people, trim your hollies right around Thanksgiving time, and then you will have that fresh holly to bring into your house to decorate for the holidays. So if you have that cut plant, it will dry out in your house. You spray it with the Wilt Stop, or if you do wreaths or even your Christmas tree. Some people spray their Christmas tree. But if you do this, you will spray the plant. It locks in the moisture and they do not dry out, which is great for its appearance, but it's also a safety thing. The plant doesn't dry out so quickly. If there's a candle close by, it's not going to be a fire hazard as much as if it had dried out. So that Wilt Stop is a wonderful, wonderful product. Again, brought to you by Bonide. Now, the things that we need to be doing right now, this is a time for our fall cleanup. So we need to be cutting down all of our perennials. We need to be cleaning out our beds. If you had anything that was diseased in your beds, even a little bit of powdery mildew, you want to make sure that when you're cleaning that out, that you are not putting that in your compost pile, because that compost pile is going to be warm. It's not going, everybody says, oh, I'll throw it in my compost pile over the winter. It'll freeze and die off and it'll be okay. But in the middle of that compost pile, it stays warm. And as all of that is decomposing, there's heat in there. And so that bacteria, that fungus, it will all keep growing in there. And then if you use that compost next year, you are just putting those spores right around your plants that are going to get those disease diseases again. So you want to make sure if you have diseased leaves that they go in the trash or they get burnt. You want to make sure that you're not putting those in your compost pile. But this is the time of year that we want to get those ready. Remember, if you did plant mums this fall, you do not cut them off. You leave that head on to catch all of that winter debris, the leaves and the grasses and all of that. Even though it looks a little nasty this year, it's going to help insulate your plant, and it will do much better for you coming back next year. In the springtime, you'll be able to cut it off. And that's when you'll go ahead and clean up the beds at that time. You have to do it again anyway in the spring. So just go ahead and leave your mums until then, and you'll be fine. Now, I've also had a question this week about cover crop. And the question was, is it too late to get your cover crop down? We like to see cover crop go down the end of September, the first part of October. We are having some warm temperatures this weekend. So if you have a chance to clean up your beds and you can get some cover crop down, I would definitely say, go for it. You want to get that down. As long as we are having temperatures in the upper 50s and in the 60s throughout the day, you are going to be fine. And the extended forecast looks like next week we are supposed to be in the 60s most of the time. So if this weekend you can get your cover crop down, that is just going to be that much more beneficial to your garden next year. Now, I do know people that doesn't plant cover crop and they just compost in their gardens over the winter. If you are doing that, you don't really have a compost pile, but in your garden you compost throughout the winter. Remember a couple tips to keep out animals from rooting around in that and making a mess. Use some lime. That's also going to keep the odors down so that the neighbors don't mind that all decomposing in there. And also use some compost charger. Espoma has a great one. Bonite has a great one. And sprinkle that down over top of the things that you're decomposing in your garden. These things also work great in your compost pile to help the decomposition take place more quickly. But use those, and that's going to make things more readily available to till into your garden next season. And that will really help you. We had one more poinsettia question that I would like to answer. Actually, this was from my niece in Chicago, Illinois. She sent me a photo this week of a beautiful green poinsettia in a nice pot sitting in her office. And she said her team at work had struggled, but had worked on it all season from last Christmas when someone was given this poinsettia, and they kept it growing all year long. Now here it is. It was, midweek, probably Wednesday or Thursday of this week. They sent me this photo. It was still beautifully green, and they wanted to know how they can change the color. And we talked about this with Carol's poinsettia last week when she had it planted in the ground and was digging it up. So this one is already in a pot. So if you have this issue and you didn't hear last week, if you have a poinsettia that is beautifully green right now, doing well, lush, flourishing, but is still green, having no color to its bracts yet, you want to make sure that it is in an area where it is in the light when it is daylight out and it's in the dark when it's dark out. No artificial light. That and temperature. So a poinsettia likes 65 or above. So make sure that the room that you're keeping it in is at least 65 degrees or above, or that will slow up the process. It will still change color with just keeping it in the light when it's light and in the dark when it's dark, but it will slow it up if it's cooler than 65 degrees. That's why poinsettias are very expensive to grow, because in the greenhouse, we have to keep the greenhouse so warm to make them change the color. So if you wonder why sometimes you walk into a greenhouse, it's cloudy and it's really warm, you're thinking, how did it get so warm? It's because we have furnaces in those greenhouses, and that keeps them warm, and that's what gets the poinsettias to change color. So if you have a beautiful green poinsettia, you need to keep the temperature up, and it needs to be in the daylight when it's daylight. It needs needs to be in the dark when it's dark outside. That doesn't mean leaving it in the living room and leaving the TV on and a light on in the living room with you until you go to bed at 11 o'clock, because that's not enough hours of darkness. So if it is dark at 7 o'clock at night, it needs to be in the dark at 7 o'clock at night. But if it's light at 8 o'clock in the morning, it needs to be in the light at 8 o'clock in the morning. So remember, that's how you're going to get your poinsettia to really color up for you the way it needs to. Now, a couple things we need to be doing in our landscape and in our lawns right now before it gets cold. Remember, this is the time to get another fertilization on your lawn. We recommend right now a regular fertilization with Milorganite, or you can use the corn gluten meal, and the corn gluten meal is going to kill any weed seeds that are blowing around, and it's going to be a high nitrogen fertilizer for your lawn. I've told you in the past, if you can only afford to fertilize your lawn once a year, this is the time. The fall, the growth is very, very slow. It will go to nothing. So all of the nutrients in the fertilizer is going to your root system, feeding that root system for the following year. So a fall fertilization is very, very important. So if you haven't had it done yet and you need to call your local company that sprays lawns or that fertilizes lawns, Greenerscapes does that service. Also, if you are 100% organic, Greener Grass will do that for you also. But if you do it yourself, come on in. We'll get you all set up with the Milorganite or the corn gluten meal, and we're going to feed your lawns so that they're doing wonderfully. This is also the time to fertilize all your trees and shrubs, and that is including your ornamental trees and shrubs and your fruit-bearing trees and shrubs. You want to get them all fertilized. And speaking of trees and shrubs, we have a great sale going on this weekend in honor of our fall festival. We have all of our fruit-bearing trees and shrubs, so that means blueberry bushes, raspberry bushes, goji berries, all the fruit trees, they are all 20% off, and all ornamental trees and shrubs. So that's the dogwoods, the birch, the lilac trees, the lilac shrubs, the arborvitaes, the Chamaecyparis, the hydrangeas and the spirea, the burning bush. All of the ornamental trees and shrubs are all 25% off this weekend. So come in, take advantage of these great specials in honor of our fall festival. And it's going to be a great day. Come on out to the fall festival. If you don't know where we're at, and you're not on Facebook, 5828 Columbus Road. We're right on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway in Nimishillen Township. Zip is 44641 if you're putting that in your GPS. You can go on Facebook to Anthony Petitti Organic Greenhouse, and all of our information is on there. Our telephone number, 330-455-5997. It's on the Facebook page. All you have to do is scroll down, you'll see it. The directions, you can touch the map and it will take you right to the GPS on your phone. It'll get you there. Our email address, cindypetitti@gmail.com, but I'm going to tell you the rest of the day I will not be checking the email. So come on out today. Enjoy a wonderful Customer Appreciation Fall Festival. We're going to have a blast. Come on out. Thanks so much and have a blessed week.